Hello, everybody. Back again. Lake Station Community Advocate and Educator here. Back again with part 2 of, well, building new construction and losing doorbells. And what I mean by losing doorbells is you build new homes, but you push people out. That's called gentrification. Well, I hope you came prepared, listening ears, pencil and paper, and you're ready to learn something, because we went through a couple things before about how, well, when you build a new home, what the new homeowner gets through and how their home is assessed or estimated, and then they actually have to assess it, and that's how it offsets their payments every month, and then what that affects and how it affects the neighborhood. And we got into gentrification, which Ruby Glass created this theory that does happen in 1960. It's basically where the rich come into a poor neighborhood and they push out the older or the poorer community, and it benefits the richer. Gentrification is a tactic used often politically to remove those of the opposing party. It's been used to remove certain ethnic groups from communities that they don't like. And this is a common thing that's been going on. But I wanted to fold back to developments, because a lot of times the new developments, remember that, our administrators and our mayors beat themselves on the chest, and the new developments are always portrayed as good and positive. It's fiscally sound, it works, and all these great things. But quite frankly, if it worked in the 60 plus years, why do they always default back to it expecting it to work? That is insanity. So those ways are pretty fiscally unsound. It doesn't work. We know that it's unstable. And we know this because the new developments have slowly bled out their own communities. So it's like self-harm. You just squeeze yourself out of your own neighborhoods is what you do to your residents. And again, like I said, if this worked, how come in the past 10, 20, 60 plus years, why do they always default back to the very same circular problems, thinking that the very same things are going to help them solve those problems? And unfortunately, what we have in our town is not a problem, but a predicament. At least problems have solving, predicaments do not. And that is what our town is in, a very bad predicament with this way of thinking. That new development sprinkled all over town is going to help us. Well, it brings in new taxes. I wouldn't just quite get there. And if it worked, why do they always default back to it, expecting better results every time? That is insanity. Yeah, that's insane. So we've touched on the way that taxes are estimated, not assessed, and then when they're built, then the assessors come back out and they properly assess, and it usually raises the taxes so that the new homeowner is also struggling already because higher payments, because they only were able to estimate, not to actually set in stone what they're going to be paying, and that's the other problem. But if anybody is on the same side of these views, right, and they're selling it to you as an agenda or an ideology, as yes, pound, yes, we're going to fix things, and this is how we're going to fix things. First off, stop. Don't let them lie to you. Don't let them trick you. Because if this worked, why hasn't this worked in the 60 plus years since World War II and then some? Why hasn't it worked? It hasn't, for a very particular reason. Because it doesn't work. But again, like I said, you can't be on the same side of this kind of thinking, financial thinking, and believing that if we sprinkle, singular houses throughout the whole community, that it's going to raise taxes on everybody. And so if someone is even on the same political side of the people that are doing this, or let's say somebody's on the same political side and they step in and try to be new mayor or whatever the case is, I'm going to do this and this is what we're going to do. We're going to continue this. First off, don't be tricked. Do not listen to them, because it's not working, and it doesn't work. So the person is only lying to you for their benefit just to get into a position. Now, again, if this worked, why do they always hustle to make themselves look good with this type of maneuvering of community development, while also burdening and tricking the current residents that are here? They did with the school referendum. They lied to you all about, oh, we didn't have money for school buses, even though they already had all the school buses paid for the year. But that's left here nor there. I mean, the proof was out there for everybody to see, but they dictated a lot of the social media and what got out there. And except for me, they can't control that. But a question is, who and how many residents benefit from when a singular home gets put up in their neighborhood? I know if somebody put a home in down the block from me, that ain't doing nothing for me but raising my taxes. And eventually, my taxes aren't going to go down for years to come. So how's that doing me and any of my neighbors any sort of help? How's it helping me? It's not. There are better ways. And everybody's like, well, if you think you know so much, why don't you go be mayor? Why don't you run for this? And why don't you tell us how you'd fix it? First off, I ain't going to tell you how I'm going to fix it because y'all been messing this up on your own. The other thing is, well, as we see right now, everybody believes in a mayor and believes that the mayor can fix things, and it ain't happening. And we've had the same administration for how long now, and it ain't happening. So if their way of thinking worked, why ain't it happening? I have done a lot of research and a lot of studies. I have seen and been around a lot of communities where the ideas that I have, researched and studied and seen actually happen works. It really works. The problem is when you have political parties, machines that believe their way of thinking is great or only their way of doing business is okay. Why are we in debt? It's been years they've been running this town. Things have not changed. Why are not things changing? Because those ways don't work. I mean, in short, when you start building new homes across the street and down the road, whatever the case is, and let's say in certain portions of the community, they are building, let's say, a whole block full of homes. Yeah, that looks great. You may have built 6, 7, 8 homes, but you ran out 12, 13, 14 people because they no longer can pay for their homes where they live because the taxes have gone through the roof because of that new development. Now, my real challenge to everybody is, are residents only used for the purpose of higher taxes for the city, for people to beat themselves on the chest? I mean, let's face it, residents, we are not a bank for the city's debts. We really aren't. Yes, we pay for a lot of the things, but when things are mishandled, mismanaged, it's time to do something about that. And these ways don't work because if they did, the community would not be as drabby as it has been for so long and for many years. And if the same people are using the same way of thinking, doing the same things, expecting different outcomes, that is insanity. It's insanity. So hopefully I have educated you a little bit or got to think a little bit differently about these new homes popping up around us in our neighborhood because you got to watch how things are done. And by the way, large developments aren't good either. Yeah, like we see all these communities around us with all these large multi-million-dollar corporations popping up around us. That isn't good either. It burdens the residents, like all these new convention centers. It's burdening the residents for debt for the next 30 to 40 years. So your children and your grandchildren are being burdened with debt that they didn't get to vote on. So tell me how that way of life and that way of thinking is good for communities. It really isn't. But I am the Lake Station community advocate and educator. Hopefully you've learned a little something here today. If you haven't, well, watch another video, see if you can't find some information somewhere else. That's fine. I thank you. Check out Lake Station Strong Towns Collective on Facebook, Lake Station Strong Local Conversation on Facebook, Lake Station Strong Towns Advocate and Educator on YouTube. And obviously, if you're here watching me, I'm here. So be an eagle, don't be a crow. Challenge the status quo, because if you don't, you never know what you can achieve alone or together as a group for yourself and for your neighbors. And also, demand some accountability out of our administrators, and don't let them give you the we'll keep you informed excuse at the council meetings. Don't accept that, because when you accept that, they've got you beat. Be sure to hold them transparent with their accountabilities of their finances and their fiscal responsibilities in town, and be more engaged as to what's going on, because trust me, there are some things going on. And, well, till next time, folks.